Before proceeding, answer a friend's question. The friend said he remembered accidentally catching a cricket in the air with a net that caught dragonflies or flies. I remember when we were playing crickets when we were kids, we would catch a species of cricket called flying wings, which was a good breed of cricket. But there are some formal cricket arenas where it is off limits, mainly because these crickets have two long tail wings, flying wings, on their backs, and they can fly, which appear to be hybrid offspring of crickets with other insects, or at least a variant of a cricket. One of the ways we often use tweezers is to pluck out one of its wings, so that it looks like a regular cricket, but I always feel that it is a cheating to fight crickets. On the eve of the Mid-Autumn Festival in August, my cousin and I arrived at Uncle Kui's house at around 4 p.m. at the appointment of Uncle Kui and Xiaoqing. In fact, the cricket fighting meeting only started at 6 to 7 p.m., and Xiaoqing deliberately asked us to arrive 2 hours early for another purpose. Uncle Kui was not at home when we arrived, but the living room of Uncle Kui's house had been completely renovated, with a snow-white tablecloth on the large table of 8 immortals in the center of the living room, more than a dozen chairs around it, and 2 chandeliers of about 500 watts hanging on the top of the table. I guessed in my heart that this living room and the table of the 8 immortals were probably the center of the fighting crickets. The first thing that caught my attention when I entered the living room was a bamboo vessel in the center of the big 8 immortals table. The utensil was the size of a large aluminum lunchbox, but it was all made of bamboo. It is shaped like an apong boat running in the southern China rivers and lakes. The shape of the boat is as follows. Its canopy is like an equilateral triangle, with the highest point of the canopy in the middle of the boat, and then the canopy slopes downwards towards the ends of the boat, and then the canopy is connected to the hull at both ends of the boat. The top of the utensil resembles the canopy of an apong boat in an equilateral triangular shape, with the highest in the middle and the lowest at both ends, but the top cover is made of thin round bamboo sticks as thick as toothpicks. The spacing between each bamboo stick is about 2 to 3 millimeters, and the human eye can clearly see everything inside the utensils through the spacing of the bamboo sticks on the top of the sticks, no matter which direction they stand. The whole utensil is exquisitely crafted and integrated. Xiaoqing saw that we were curious about the instrument, so he immediately said, "This is the bucket shuttle used for fighting crickets." According to Xiaoqing's introduction, we realized that Uncle Kui and their cricket-fighting crickets were not placed in the usual cricket jars, but with this special fighting shuttle. The shuttle is cleverly crafted, with 2 round holes the size of an index finger at each end, and a small liftable gate that controls opening and closing. In the center of the shuttle, there is a large gate that divides the whole shuttle in 2. The bottom of the shuttle is a flat bamboo board covered with coarse rough paper, so that the crickets will never slip when they run and fight on it. Before the 2 crickets fight, use a special guide cage. This guide cage is a crescent shaped about 6 millimeters long, with 2 end openings, and the size of the hole is exactly the same as the opening at both ends of the shuttle, into the cricket tank, and then use a small bamboo stick to tie a cotton ball to drive the crickets into the guide cage, and then use the 2 fingers to block the small holes at both ends of the guide cage and lift the guide cage. In this way, one end of the guide cage is connected with one end of the shuttle, and the other end of the guide cage is driven away with a bamboo stick and cotton ball, and the cricket enters the side of the shuttle. Because the center of the shuttle is separated by a large gate, the crickets that enter the shuttle on both sides and are ready to fight each other are separated by the gate and do not touch each other. When they want to fight, they only need to lift the large gate above the shuttle cover. Then, the shuttle that was originally divided into 2 will be combined into a dueling field. In the 21st century, bamboo shuttlecocks are rarely seen in cricket arenas. Cricket players use transparent plexiglass containers instead. I also use a substitute in this video, so I would like to clarify. Readers who have played cricket must have 2 questions when they see this. 1. Crickets are small and not overpowered. That is, when 2 crickets of the same category fight, usually the big cricket wins. This is the same as boxing and wrestling as we humans, and the lightweight ones cannot be mixed with the heavyweight. 2. Since the people who come to fight crickets are experts, as soon as the 2 crickets enter the shuttle, everyone only needs to look at the grade of the crickets, and they don't need to fight, and the victory or defeat can be determined by cricket category? These 2 questions were also my doubts at the time, but once Xiaoqing took us to visit and introduced the whole process of fighting crickets, these problems were easily solved. In one of Uncle Ku's rooms, Xiaoqing showed us the miniature scale that weighs crickets. Readers who have been to domestic Chinese medicine shops must have seen the scales of Chinese medicine for pharmacy salesmen. This cricket scale is very similar to that kind of traditional Chinese medicine scale. The difference is that the scale on the scale rod is not milligrams, but a point system specially used to measure the weight of crickets. According to my later observations, if the actual weight of a medium-sized cricket is 0.5 grams, then the scale of this special cricket scale is 2.5 or so. A large cricket can scale up to 2, 8 or 2, 9 can scale to 3. Anything heavy than 3.0 is super heavyweight. Readers must ask, how do you put a live cricket on the scale and honestly weigh it? It turns out that the weighing pan of this cricket scale is specially made. The shape and size of its weighing pan are like the guide cage I described earlier, but the general guide cage is made of ivory or porcelain, while the weighing pan of the cricket scale is a thin cardboard paper plate, about 6 centimeters long and 3 centimeters wide, and a paper guide cage is placed on it. And this paper guide cage can be extracted or put into the thin cardboard paper of the cricket weighing pan. Therefore, when you want to weigh a cricket, as long as the weighing pan is put into the cricket jar through the guide cage, the cricket is driven into the guide cage with a bamboo stick cotton ball, the holes at both ends of the guide cage are plugged with a cotton ball, and the paper guide cage containing the cricket is put back into the weighing pan through the guide cage, and the cricket can be weighed. The players who come to participate in the cricket club are all fighting crickets according to the rules of this social group. And the first step in the rules of fighting crickets is to weigh out the crickets you bring and number them. The second step is to pair the weighed and numbered crickets. All of this weighing and matching work is done by the volunteer helpers hired by Uncle Quay, and the cricket players themselves are not allowed to participate in order to prevent cheating. On the first day my cousin and I attended the cricket fight, we volunteered under the leadership of Xiaoqing to help with this kind of work. For example, Zhang San, who participated in the cricket fight, brought 5 crickets to participate in the fight and put them in 5 cricket jars. We took Zhang San into the weighing cricket room and weighed out the weight of Zhang San's 5 crickets as follows: 2.5, 2.6, 2.7, 2.8, 2.9. When all the crickets are weighed, they enter the process called pairing. The staff shout the number of the first cricket to be weighed in order in front of all the participants, such as Zhang 2.5. Shout 3 times in a row. If there is a Li 2.5 on the cricket weighing list in Li's hand, Li will reply, I have 2.5. The staff immediately put Zhang 2.5 and Li 2.5 in the cricket room. 2 cricket jars are stacked together and this pair is matched completed. Both sides can enter the cricket fight. Often it's likely that someone brings a cricket that is too underweight or too heavy to pair with someone else's, and then they'll have to wait, sadly, for the next time. At this time, the so-called voluntary release point appeared. The so-called release point refers to the fact that someone's crickets are not as heavy as other people's crickets, but he voluntarily matches crickets that are slightly heavier than him, which generally happens when the owner of the cricket thinks that his cricket variety is good and is very confident. It can be seen that the weighing and matching of crickets is more laborious and troublesome, but it is an inevitable procedure. Therefore, the cricket festival mentioned earlier is actually not accurate, but it is divided into many weekly cricket fights from the Mid-Autumn Festival in August, and it is carried out until the winter light snow season, and of course there are cases where things are suspended. In this way, about 10 people participate in the cricket fight each time, and according to the average 5 crickets brought by each person, each successful pairing can enter about 20 to 25 pairs of crickets. From the time the crickets are paired to the time when the crickets on both sides are put into the shuttle with a guide cage by the staff, the owners of both crickets cannot see their own crickets or the other party's crickets. At this time, the canopy of the shuttle is covered with a thin layer of cotton paper, and the owners of both crickets can lift the corner of the paper to look at their own crickets, but not at each other's crickets. At this time, the referee sitting in front of the shuttle asked the 2 sides if they wanted to press flowers. The so-called press on flowers is to bet on fighting crickets. This is very similar to betting in Western poker, where both sides can't see each other's cards, crickets, and when the other party shouts out a price code, you can agree. You can increase the price, or you can disagree. Disagreeing means that you abstain from giving up the cricket, and in the cricket fight I watched, I never saw a direct cash transaction, presumably after the fact to the middleman. When shouting the price, they are also cut with the jargon in the cricket society, what 1 finger, 2 fingers, and so on. This shows that people in the cricket industry are very cautious and very few. I heard that he was caught playing cricket and gambling. Of course, their both sides do not press on flowers. This is purely a cricket fight. This situation is often the cricket owners on both sides of their first competition. Cricket win rate is not accurate. Want to test their love crickets through the cricket fight, or the two sides are acquaintances in their own circle, do not want to have money to win or lose. These two types of situations are commonly known as trial.
Dear friends, this episode of Brother Zhang's story has been broadcasted. The next episode will continue to publish 2 days later at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Don't forget to hit like it and press subscribe button before you go. Thank you.